If you're the kind of person who concerns himself or herself with global issues like climate change or the BLM movement or anything like that, odds are you're a complete loser. And the reason for that is, and you're probably going to click off this video already because I've offended you, but the reason for that is quite a deep reason, really. All of us need to feel like our lives are meaningful, don't we? We need to feel that we have purpose. If we don't have a purpose in life, then why are we here at all? Some people derive their purpose from God. Some people derive their purpose from their life's work. Some people who are lazy derive their purpose from global issues that they cannot influence. And that becomes their excuse for being lazy and ineffectual people. And a lot of people in my generation have taken to this strategy. The strategy of attaching themselves, tethering themselves to a large issue, which they can form communities about. And they can do lots of complaining on social media and reposting and tagging things and liking things and sharing things, but doing basically nothing. I have several friends from school who seem to concern themselves with this activity on a daily basis. All I used to see on social media was people reposting things about racism or about climate change, about police officers in America when they don't even live in America. You know, it just goes on. And these people were generally people who were doing nothing, doing nothing with their lives. It's funny, isn't it? These people have so much time for a global issue, but they don't even have the time to sort their own lives out. They don't even have the time to be useful, powerful people in their own right, in their own communities. They don't have a particularly interesting or useful occupation. They might be completely reliant on benefits. They're of no use to themselves or their friends or their family. All they do is complain, and they think that by concerning themselves with a global issue, that all of that is just taken care of. They don't need to worry about that. They're exempt of the duties of normal life because there's a global issue at hand. And this is the thing that I see all the time. I often make the case for first concerning yourself with yourself, improve yourself so that you are of use to anyone at all. Then try to help the person who's closest to you in your life. That might be your partner, it might be your family, might be your children, and then you go to your community, your friends, your neighbours, then it goes wider and wider and wider. But so much in the news, what are we hearing? We're hearing people calling basically for intervention in the war in Ukraine. People are desperate to launch the United Kingdom into an armed conflict with another major power before they can even sort their own lives out and provide for their family. It's completely crazy. And the same thing with climate change. You have people who have so convinced themselves, and it's a beautiful idea, isn't it? Climate change will cause the end of the world unless we cut carbon emissions. An invisible gas. We can't see it. We can't really see the effect of it taking place. But there's this correlation, these correlation effects that are supposedly going to cause the end of the world. Now, I'm not going to get into the science of it. You may have your opinion, I may have mine. But it's a very convenient idea, isn't it? It's one of those things that can't be conclusively proved, let's say. But there might be lots of scientific evidence to suggest that it will happen. So it's great, isn't it? It's a great system because you can believe in this thing that can't really be disproven or proven. And it's going to cause the end of the world, supposedly. So why worry about local, small-scale issues that would actually improve your own life and the lives of others around you, when you can spend all of your time worrying about this one thing? Because if we don't sort this one thing, then all of those other things in them anyway, because we'll all be dead. It's very convenient, and the sad thing is that the people who, and if you're one of them, then you'll spend your whole life worrying about something that probably won't happen anyway, and then you'll realise that you should have done something useful to begin with. And all of the people who you were chastising and calling on to join your global cause will have spent their lives instead doing things that actually benefit them and benefit their family and their friends. So if you're the sort of person who spends his or her time worrying about things that you can't change, take on a bit of stoicism. Stoicism is essentially the idea that it's just that. Don't worry about things that you can't change. I often think that this is one of the main reasons why young people are so depressed. I mean, there's a huge amount of overlap between a depressed person and a climate activist, right? They both believe that life is essentially meaningless now. They believe that the world is rotten, is full of evil because we're doing all these terrible things that are going to cause the end of the world. The world's going to end, and their place on the earth is going to be for nothing, right? They have an incredibly cynical worldview, and that can't be good for your mental health, believing in all this and spending all of your time thinking about it. So what these people really need is to stop worrying about climate change and start worrying about themselves, start worrying about their own lives. Be stoic. Why worry about climate change? What can you do? And I know there's the argument that just because you can't change something, it doesn't mean that that you shouldn't. Perhaps just because your impact is small, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't still do it. But the fact is, your impact is not just small, it's zero. And your impact would be so much bigger if you were to spend your energy on things that did anything at all. Like, how about just do something that does anything at all? But no, most of these activists like to spend their times, they like to spend their time standing in front of traffic or preventing people from getting on trains, standing in front of planes, covering great works of art with soup, or pouring milk all over the floor in a shop. That's what they like to do. That's their contribution to society. So don't be one of these people. Think about yourself, because actually being a little bit selfish is necessary to be useful to anyone. You can be selfish, or you can pour tomato soup on a great work of art. Which is it going to be? I think it's quite obvious, really, in the end. So do something useful, take care of yourself, stop worrying about things that you can't change, and then maybe your life will actually be worth something.